There's some thunder going on outside, so hopefully I don't pick up too much of that, but to be honest, this game is a complete handful. I don't even know if I'm qualified to cover this. I don't just want to cover the story of the game, but dive into the world, characters, monsters, and more. Not any strong opinions or concepts of what I think, but the by-the-book idea of everything. Then you can pick around and dig deeper from the information that I share. Nothing like starting off with what Silent Hill even is. A small, sleepy former resort town in Maine. Here's a snippet from the Lost Book of Memories. The name of that town is Silent Hill. Although it is known as a scenic resort area, it is a cursed place where the town's former inhabitants were once driven away. Brutal executions were once carried out, and a mysterious plague was once prevalent. This town is centered around Toluca Lake, from which a thick fog perpetually enshrouds the area and makes vague the reality and dreams of those who visit the town. And according to those who have seen them, there are also times when things that should not naturally exist appear. There's 3 planes of existence in the world: the real world, fog world, and other world. When we start Silent Hill 2, there's a very light fog as James looks over the parking lot, a lot lighter than anywhere else throughout the game. This could be the last time of James being in the real world. As we get into the forest, the fog thickens extremely. Then, much later in the game, you experience the other world, which is a manifestation of your nightmare ideas. Another place from appearance different entirely throughout each character. With the idea of the world, let's dig into the entire story, summed up. James receives a letter from his deceased wife, telling him to find her in Silent Hill. Unfortunately, he's in denial, and his actions are the reason he's even here. Mary Sunderland, James' wife, was terminally ill and had been for years. He smothers her with a pillow a few days before the events of the game. As his grief dragged him into denial, and he tries to believe she naturally died 3 years ago, he enters Silent Hill in search of her. Once entering the fog is where all his guilt and negative emotions turn into the monsters we encounter. I think they're very important, but I'd like to bring the characters into the mix first. Each has their own significance, and I want you to see the progression through the story. I'm going to talk about each interaction in order of meeting them. I think the progression of each is very significant and how James' realization comes into play. Angela Orozco is the first character we meet. Coming up to the cemetery, she's startled and seems a bit timid. Regardless, she points us in the right direction and seems to be in search of her mother and perhaps father and brother.
This town, there's something wrong with it, but...
Is it dangerous?
Maybe. And it's not just the fog either.
Okay, I got it. I'll be careful. I'm looking for someone.
Me too. I'm looking for my mama. I mean my mother. I thought my father and brother were here, but...
Next, briefly met in the beginning of the woodside apartment, a little girl who kicks the key away from you and steps on your hand. She laughs and runs away. Next is Eddie Dombrowski, who is also met here, who's vomiting in a toilet while being defensive over a corpse in the apartment's fridge. Asked by James if he has any association with the Red Pyramid thing, Eddie says no and tells James to be careful.
Red Pyramid thing? I don't know what you're talking about.
Eddie, be careful.
James, you be careful too.
Later in the apartments, you meet Angela once again. She's contemplating her own death. James talks her out of it and brings up her mother to change conversation. However, she mentions James and her are more or less the same, maybe leaning into the idea of her subconsciously knowing about what he's done. She also seems more disoriented than anything. With slower cognition, she learns of Mary's death and seems to be a lot more uncomfortable, just wanting to flee the situation. Not before again sort of lowering her defense to give James a knife, but heightens once he steps closer. You slowly start to see a lot more character development from this point on.
I don't know why I think she's here.
She's dead? I've got to find my mama.
Should I go with you? This town's dangerous. Now I know what you meant back there in the cemetery.
I'll be okay by myself. Will you hold it for me?
Sure. No problem.
No! Oh, I'm sorry. I've been bad. Please, don't!
Leaving the apartments, you run into the little girl, again, confronting her and questioning about her being here. And she tells James you never loved Mary anyway. Again, tying into the fact of these other characters seeming to subconsciously know the truth about James. The little girl then runs away.
You didn't love Mary anyway.
Wait! How do you know Mary's name?
Just after, in Rosewater Park, The first spot he suspects as their special place written in the letter. However, he runs into a woman, Maria, who shares striking resemblance to Mary, although she's much more provocative towards him, making him touch her chest to show she's real, and pointing out the idea of her being so similar to Mary as to accompany James to the next supposed special location. Maria is a construction of James' imagination due to the guilt, delusion, and want to see his wife again. Her appearance and demeanor contribute a lot to perhaps what James wishes Mary was outside of her bedridden state. It's also seen that she has a butterfly tattoo on her abdomen, which is a sign for rebirth.
No, but...
With all these monsters around?
No, I just...
I'm all alone here. Everyone else is gone. I look like Mary, don't I? You loved her, right?
After the park, you can find yourself at Pete's Bolorama, meeting Eddie and a little girl, who are talking about running from their issues. Obviously, much different from each other. Eddie, eating a slice of pizza, gets called a gutless fatso from running from his problems. James approaches the pair, and the little girl flees. Eddie mentions her name being Laura, and he seems uninterested in helping find her, since she insulted him. Also, looking at the introduction video, if remembered, Eddie and Laura were seen traveling together to Silent Hill. That's how they seem to know a decent amount about each other.
How can you sit there and eat pizza?
She said she was fine by herself. She said a fatso like me would just slow her down.
Forget you.
Leaving the building, Maria mentions where she went, and they continue looking for her. They have to pass through a strip club, which Maria has the keys for, again contributing to her theme and game of James' sexual frustration. Laura is seen entering Brookshaven Hospital. A bit into the hospital, Maria lies in a room after feeling sick, and James mentions he'll be back after finding Laura.
I'm gonna go look for her. For Laura. I'll be back as soon as I can.
Before finding her, James finds himself in the other world. The other world of the hospital is a more dark, cooler colored, and depressing version of the fog. Gurneys, boxes, doors, and much of the environment is covered in sheets. Laura is found here in one of the rooms, playing with teddy bears. He calls her name, and again she insults Eddie's identity. James confronts her on how she knows Mary if she was dead, and she explains how. Not before snapping at her, as the timeline doesn't match up with his. He apologizes and asks how she hasn't been hurt yet, most likely leaning into the idea that she doesn't see anything what the others see. She then tricks him by telling him there's a letter from Mary in one of the rooms.
But last year, Mary was already here. I can't believe you haven't even gotten a scratch on you.
A letter from Mary.
Huh?
I want to go get it. Is that okay?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, in the back.
Laura!
Later, James finds Maria in the hospital basement, and she yells at him for seeming to care more for Mary than for her, as she's more present than Mary could be. She wants to be taken care of by James. She also shares strong urgency to find Laura and protect her. She obviously has much more connection to Mary than James realizes, as she feels close to Laura as Mary did, and she also knows James' name without ever being told it.
You couldn't care less about me, could you?
No, I
Then
just...
stay with me. Don't ever leave me alone. You're supposed to take care of me. So, what about Laura? Did you find her?
Yeah, but she ran away.
We've got to find her. And for some reason, I feel like it's up to me to protect her.
Nearing the end of the hospital, Pyramid Head chases the pair. The elevator closes, and Maria is killed. James is obviously brought into extreme distraught, sitting on the floor of the elevator. Leaving the hospital, James is still determined to find Mary. Being led to the historical district with 2 levels, the Toluca prison and Labyrinth. You fall into the prison's cafeteria, accidentally shining your flashlight on Eddie. This time he seems much more disturbed. Eddie has a gun in his hand and mentions how easy it is to kill a man, explaining that the corpse on the table deserved it for looking at him strange. Much less denial compared to the first encounter, only saying he's kidding once James shows concern.
You can't just kill someone because of the way they looked at you.
Oh yeah? Why not? Till now I always let people walk all over me. Just like that stupid dog. I was just joking, James.
While in the labyrinth, Maria is found in a cell. With much concern, James brings her dying up, but she tells James that she was just separated from him, not murdered. She then starts to bring up memories that Mary has, rolling her eyes at James as he wants Mary, and she continues by saying she can be whatever he wants, touching his face and asking if he wants to touch her. He says he'll be there soon.
I'm not your Mary.
So, you're Maria?
I am. If you want me to be. It doesn't matter who I am. I'm here for you, James. See? I'm real. Don't you want to touch me?
I don't know.
Come and get me. I can't do anything through these bars.
Continuing through the labyrinth, James finds a newspaper snippet telling of Angela killing her father, and the motive was a crime of passion from what her father had done. This explains her timidness towards James during their previous interactions. He hears her scream, "No, Daddy, please don't." In the room, Angela is cowering from a grotesque form of her father. This is from James' perspective. Around the seemingly flesh-covered room are pistons making thrusting motions, even more symbolism of her assault. Once defeated, James tells her to calm down, which agitates her. She accuses him of only being nice for one thing. She sobs. He tries to comfort her, but she yells at him to back off, and that he makes her sick. She calls James a liar when he mentions Mary dying from her illness. She says she knows about him and how he doesn't want Mary around, probably finding someone else. More subconscious feeling of what I mentioned previously.
You said your wife Mary was dead, right?
Yes. She was ill.
Liar! I know about you. You didn't want her around anymore. You probably found someone else.
Again in the labyrinth, you find Maria, but somehow murdered, lying on the bed, dead. He holds his face at her bedside and says Mary's name, continually digging grief into James deeper and deeper.
Why? Mary.
Later in the labyrinth, you step into Eddie's other world, a meat locker, a cold and bitter world where people had insulted him. One's intelligence and appearance mean nothing after death, so he's willing to kill anyone to stop the mocking. This further explains every dead body previously while seeing Eddie and their symbolism for his bullies. James tries to reason with Eddie, but he takes it negatively and lashes out at him. A fight ensues, and through it Eddie talks about how he killed his bully's dog and shot the bully as well with no remorse. Once he's dead, James questions himself for taking a human's life. Looking over the events that lead up to now, James seems to question everything. Laura mentioning how he didn't love Mary and telling him she was alive a year ago. Then Angela saying they're alike and she knows what he really thinks. Even Eddie and his denial in the beginning and lack of care for Laura, all reflecting upon James having him question if Mary really died 3 years ago. Looking at the letter now, it's also blank, meaning even less of what he thought is more a reality.
Killed a human being. Did you really die 3 years ago?
Traveling across the lake, he makes it to Lakeview Hotel. Once in their restaurant, we meet Laura again, who startles James. She hands James a letter and says not to tell Rachel, their nurse. The letter talks of Mary wanting to adopt Laura, confirming her knowing Mary. This drives the question of her death even more, as the truth stated in the letter of Laura's age again doesn't line up with his timeline of her death. She flees again to find another letter.
Laura, how old are you?
I turned 8 last week.
So, Mary couldn't have died. 3 years ago. Could she really be here? Is this the quiet, beautiful place she was talking about?
Later, when playing the videotape that was mentioned was left behind, it reveals James smothering Mary. Sulking in his chair with true realization, Laura comes into the room and he reveals to her that he had killed Mary. She tells him how much she hates him and begs for wanting her back, saying how she was always waiting for him. Laura leaves again and James hears Mary's voice again from his radio asking to see him.
I want her back. Give her back to me. I knew it. You didn't care about her. I hate you, James. She was always waiting for you. Why?
I'm sorry.
James, where are you? I'm waiting for you.
Further, in the decaying hotel, he finds Angela on a burning staircase. She's standing in front of two skinned and castrated bodies, portraying her father and brother. She thanks him for saving her, but wishes he never did. She states how even her mother had said that she deserved it. She mockingly asks if he could care for her, or take the pain away, which he doesn't reply. She asks for the knife back, and James refuses. James mentions it's hot as hell in here. She states that it's always like this for her. An everlasting hell, virtually inescapable. She ascends the staircase to find another way, presumably to die.
That's what I thought. James, give me back that knife.
No, I won't. It's hot as hell in here.
You see it too? For me, it's always like this.
In the hotel lobby, Maria is found once again, bound upside down and screaming. However, she is killed like the elevator scene, with a pyramid head spear through her chest. James finally realizes they were created for his own punishment.
I was weak. That's why I needed you. Needed someone to punish me for my sins.
After the fight, James relives a memory of bringing Mary flowers, but she refuses and says she doesn't deserve them as she's too disgusting. She pleads for James to be with her, and the memory ends.
Mary, what are you saying?
Look, I'm disgusting. Don't come back. James, wait. Please don't go. Stay with me. Don't leave me alone. I didn't mean what I said. Please, James. Tell me I'll be okay. Tell me I'm not going to die. Help me.
At the roof of the hotel, you can either see Mary, who transforms into a monster once angered by James wanting Maria, or Maria, who's mimicking Mary's appearance, also transforming for him wanting Mary still. A bit confusing, but from that point of meeting Mary on the roof, several endings can play out. There's 6 in total. I'll mention them in the later half. To conclude all the characters, I've roughly mentioned each, or was direct throughout. However, Maria is James' repressed desires, Angela is the embodiment of trauma and guilt, Eddie represents violence and denial, while Laura is innocence and truth, unaware of the town's torment. Each character seems to, as I stated, subconsciously and slowly evolve into the realization in James' denial. Alright, now covering the monsters and each of their representations. The first one we encounter is the lying figure, found in a tunnel in the streets of Silent Hill, where James' radio is found, hearing Mary the first time. They seem to be wearing a straitjacket of their own skin, and a pair of platform heels, a zipper-like face, wound in their chest, and either crawls on the floor or shambles slowly. This creature represents James' sick wife on her deathbed, hence the name, and his own internal suffering of feeling constrained. It spews acid from its chest, another interpretation of sickness, and perhaps the verbal abuse towards James throughout her illness. The arms being tied and it scurrying around the floor could play into James not being able to hold Mary and feeling constrained. And finally, its curvy appearance and platform heels are there to share the common theme of James' sexual frustration throughout the game. The next creature we meet are in the woodside apartment, the mannequins, found right with the flashlight in a room of mannequins. consisting of 2 legs attached with the torso. Its top legs don't have feet, but looking close, the bottom and upper pair seem to be wearing braces. Another symbol this time, to Mary needing braces to walk when she could. The mannequins also symbolize James' sexual suppression and state that his wife was in during her illness, as their appearance is just the lower half of a woman. This also digs into the involvement of Pyramid Head and the mannequins' interactions. The mannequins could lean more towards helplessness and a misuse of a masculine force, as they are exaggeratedly mistreated, as the idea of the lower half of a woman is often. There's also this sense of innocence, as they react violently to light and aren't as aware of the player until up close. Well known, but deserves the coverage anyway. Pyramid Head, having the stature of a well-built man, clothing of an executioner or butcher, based on a painting Misty Day that James had seen when visiting the historical district in Silent Hill with Mary. To push Pyramid Head away from being too similar to a man, he was greatly exaggerated in his blade and headpiece. He represents James' immense guilt and deserving of punishment for what he did to Mary. The first major encounter, but second time seeing him, is in the kitchen of one of the apartments, killing 2 mannequins, but the scene is played out quite sexually violent. All 3 pushed up against each other, and Pyramid Head with his pelvis more forward. He releases his grasp on the mannequins, and they appear to die, then drags one body on the ground. This is all to represent James' own battle in his mind with his denial. His own self-punishment is produced onto others, as Pyramid Head is often seen attacking the other monsters or creations of Silent Hill, like Maria. Either on the streets or later in the apartments, you'll stumble upon a little bug on the floor. Not as profound as a lot of the other monsters, but this creeper, as it's called, looks to be a large goldenish beetle. James doesn't hold any influence over their appearance, but they're more so derived from the power of the town itself. They can also be seen as the infestation of negativity that the town seems to be engulfed in. Also seen in the prison is an entire room crawling with them. Their inclusion, all in homage to the first game. Once reaching the hospital, we encounter the bubblehead nurse, with a vinyl-wrapped swollen head and provocative attire, includes exposed cleavage and a miniskirt. Strangely enough, the lower half of the face represents an infant. The wrapped, bloated head symbolizes the suffocation method that James used to kill Mary. The infant's face is the want of a child but inability due to her illness. Then the attire contributes to James' continued sexual frustration. I wanted to point out that being handed the letter from Laura, she mentions their nurse Rachel, who James does not remember, playing into the fact of the mental scarring of the nurses in hospital to James and why the bubblehead nurses exist. Once Laura traps James in the hospital, we meet the flesh lips, an amalgamation of flesh and a frame. A pair of lips are seen on the lower half of the figure, and limbs protruding out. Very reminiscent of the concept of Pyramid Head that influenced its manifestation. In the painting Misty Day, you see framed figures surrounding Pyramid Head, perhaps influencing this creature as well. Its framed appearance is attached again to the idea of bedridden Mary, and the lips are the verbal abuse that James would receive from her. Between the streets of the Otherworld, we meet the Mandarin, found hanging from the grated floors. They never appear above ground, which ties to the idea of James' anguish and helplessness. They can't do anything besides seem to try and grab your attention, and never escape. They have oversized arms with mouths at the end. This is a continued theme from the latter half of the creatures, as they all have forms of lips, further underlying Mary's verbal abuse to him during her illness. Their name also seems to come from their similar appearance to the Mandarin character. Late in the labyrinth is, I believe, the most disturbing monster, the Abstract Daddy. This was the grotesque monster I mentioned earlier with Angela. Its appearance is of 2 stacked bodies in a blanket of flesh within a frame. This is the manifestation of Angela's sexual abuse from her father and brother. The bottom figure represents the abused with a smaller form, and can be seen screaming in pain, while the upper figure has the larger, more in-control stature of it being the foundation for the monster. This is in James' eyes from what he knows from the newspaper, and the frame of the creature is influenced by Mary's illness, leaving her bedridden. This leaves the interpretation of what Angela sees to be much, much more disturbing. As stated in the game and from the designer, James knows nothing of the sea of flames that Angela lives in. Even as she said herself, it's always like this for her. For our final creature, we have Mary, the boss we see at the end of the game. Her appearance, which similar to many other creatures in the frame, and this time surrounding Mary herself, suspended upside down and screaming, wearing a headpiece perhaps to cover the loss of hair that she experienced. The frame also has relation to her confinement in bed, and her dress shares resemblance to the nurse's. another motif to hospitalization. There's a lot of symbolism in this fight as well. James gets strangled by the boss similar to her asphyxiation. She also attacks by spewing moths from her mouth, moths being a symbol of death, and this could also play into the verbal abuse as well, including the opposition of Maria's butterfly tattoo. Maria is the boss in all the fights as he rejects her, except in the Maria ending, as Mary is upset that he chooses Maria. I've mentioned the story, characters, and monsters. Finally, the endings, which I've mentioned a couple times. There's 6 in total, 4 main ones, 3 of the 6 are also second playthrough endings. As I talk about them, I'll leave on screen how to achieve each ending as well. The first ending, titled Leave, is met with the boss being defeated and James revealing to Mary his consumption of resentment due to her sickness and her anger towards him. Mary denies this being his reasoning and hands him back the letter, allowing him to leave Silent Hill with Laura. This ending, as the list of things done, is produced by actively taking care of James and having Mary in mind. A second ending you can receive is In Water. After defeating the monster, he tells Mary the same thing. However, she insists that he's also gone through enough. She dies once again, but in his arms. He places her body in the backseat of the car, and from the novelization, it is stated that she was in the trunk from the start. Realizing that he's ultimately unable to live without Mary, he decides that his death was the reason he came to Silent Hill in the first place, driving his car with Mary in it into Toluca Lake. This ending is produced by neglecting James' care, looking at Angela's knife, and the patient's diary, all tied to the act of self-hate or harm.
Without you, Mary, I've got nothing. Now we can be together.
The third ending you can get is Maria. The Maria boss fight is truly Mary, as James has seemed to choose Maria, and she resents him for this. After the fight, James returns to Rosewater Park, meeting another resurrected Maria. He states that the Mary he killed was not her. Leaving Silent Hill with Maria, she starts to cough. Similar to Mary, James states she better take care of that cough. He seemed to ultimately learn nothing, leading to the same fate. This ending is met by taking care of James, being conscious and careful with Maria, a sort of false replacement that James falls for. A fourth ending, which playing the game a second time and killing the boss again. This time, you carry Mary's body to the Church of Rebirth on Toluca Lake Island, intending to try and resurrect Mary with relics you collect throughout the game. Using the old god's help, the outcome is unknown if he succeeded or not, and the old gods are the cult tied to Silent Hill in the other games.
Silent Hill. The old gods haven't left this place. And they still grant power to those who venerate them. Power to defy even death.
Our 2 final endings, a bit more lighthearted and similar to my other content in Easter egg and reference style. Playing the game again, after completing one of the 3 main endings, you can find a dog key near Jack's Inn at a doghouse. On the 3rd floor of the hotel, you can use the key on the observation room, leading to James discovering a dog who's been controlling the events of the game. James says, "So it was all your work." The dog licks him, and an interesting credit plays out. For our 4th ending, added in a re-release, the UFO ending by using a blue gem at 3 locations: the Brookhaven Hospital Garden, the front of the rowboats on the dock, and finally in the room 312. James gets abducted by aliens with the help of Harry Mason from the first game, which this also happens in an ending in that game. It seems to be a continuing theme throughout the games. And you know what, for a couple final points, I just wanted to mention how much scattered content is around that digs deeper into everything in this game, from the novelization, the DLC, the endings, and looking around each stage like a detective, finding every clue. Even the characters derive such an intense narrative. Angela's is extremely tense. You can make entire videos on each themselves. I found so much I didn't talk about, and I encourage anyone to do their own digging. A few topics that were interesting, one being an item from the In Water ending, is about a very depressed patient's diary. I'll leave what it says on screen. Then the many themes of the game that are outright. Well, there are some hidden ones. Much of the puzzles are all in threes, such as Mary's death timeline in James' head being 3 years ago. There's just so much symbolism, it's such an amazing game. Another thing I wanted to talk about is the absolutely stunning music of this game. As I was editing, I didn't want to overlook it. There are a few main pieces that make my brain do somersaults. The music is so beautiful for such an intense game. I'll leave some snippets. They're normally during cutscenes, so half the music is mixed in, just driving the narrative even deeper. Well, if you made it this far, thank you so much, and bye-bye.